All right. My favorite Mexican fighter of all time, Eric El Terrible Morales, blasts Canelo Alvarez, and this talk of him being an all-time great fighter. And he makes just this really powerful argument about Canelo Alvarez fighting old men and taking a lot of advantages of taking advantage of the situation. Let's talk about that very sad state of affairs in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel, subscribers. If you are not subscribed, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. Also, special thank you to the Patreon community, to the live stream community. Thank you guys so much for your support of the channel. Make sure you come 8 a.m. Central Standard Time, Sunday mornings for OG Boxing Talk. That is our weekending show where we have very mature, longtime boxing fan and experts on the panel where we discuss the state of boxing. Myself, KQKC Boxing, Curtis Anderson, Trap House Boxing, and my executive producer, Blood Boxing. And definitely go check out Blood Boxing's documentaries on YouTube. Okay, I don't like this. Now, it's a funny thing because whenever you criticize somebody in a video, you become a hater, right? So I'm fully prepared to be called a hater in the comment section of this video. But people that are familiar with the channel know that I am anything but a Canelo Alvarez hater. I had Canelo Alvarez as my #1 pound for pound fighter. I did videos about how great a fighter I think Canelo Alvarez is, a big supporter of Canelo Alvarez. And it doesn't make me feel good to make the type of video that I'm gonna make now, because honestly, man, I've been a fan. I've been a big fan of Canelo Alvarez for a long time. I think he's an excellent fighter. Early part of his career, when he fought Erislandy Lara, after Erislandy Lara got in his face, I thought that dude was a cat that had a lot of heart. And man, he's really let me down over the last couple years. Eric El Terrible, who again is my favorite Mexican fighter. I'm not saying he's the best Mexican fighter. I'm saying he's my favorite Mexican fighter. Love the wars that he had. Love the wars that he had with Marco Antonio Barrera. Always rooted for him in those fights. It was so ecstatic when he beat Manny Pacquiao. He beat Manny Pacquiao at lightweight. Man, I'm telling you, dude, El Terrible is a great fighter. Right up there with the best Mexican fighters that have done it since 1980. Won't talk about, the ones before that, because all this all-time great stuff is just, it's apples and oranges when you compare guys now to when you compare guys that were fighting in the 1950s, in 1940s, 50s, 30s, 40s, and 50s for a lot of reasons. But El Terrible says this about Canelo Alvarez, that he fights old men who he fights people that are past their prime, and that's why he can't put him up with being like the other great Mexican fighters, because the other great Mexican fighters fight guys that were the best and not guys that just have big names. And I hate to say that about Canelo Alvarez, but it's not an opinion. That's an objective fact. That Canelo Alvarez tends to fight fighters that he tends to fight fighters that are older, that are on the downside of their career, that have big names. And that has been from the time of, and these are people that Eric Morales specifically mentions: Shane Mosley, Miguel Cotto, Gennady Golovkin, now Sergey Kovalev. Those guys are all past their prime when they got anywhere near Canelo Alvarez. And then there's also sprinkled in guys that are completely have no chance of winning the fight at all. Like Amir Khan, who had already been knocked out by Danny Garcia, who had already been knocked out, I do believe, by Breidis Prescott in the UK. He was already, and he was fighting him at a bigger weight class than Amir Khan should ever fight in. Those type of fights, those type of guys that have big names, though. People that you can say, oh, I know who Shane Mosley is. Shane Mosley beat Oscar De La Hoya twice. I know who Miguel Cotto is. Miguel Cotto is the former 140-pound champion, 147-pound champion, and he's the guy that took the middleweight belt off of one of the better middleweights to fight in this century, which is Sergio Martinez. One of the better. Now, I'm not saying he's a all-time great middleweight. Okay, I'm not getting into that. But Sergio Martinez is a legitimate fighter. A very good middleweight. One of the better middleweights I've seen since the year 2000 when he's healthy, right? All of these names are on Canelo Alvarez's resume. But they're all, and I did these videos when he fought Gennady Golovkin, and this is the reason why I picked Canelo Alvarez originally to beat Gennady Golovkin, because Gennady Golovkin was on his way down and Canelo Alvarez was on his way up. And I believed, and at the time I put that on Oscar De La Hoya and said, Oscar De La Hoya and their matchmakers, because you can say a lot about fishnets and all kind of other nonsense about Oscar De La Hoya, but Oscar De La Hoya knows boxing. Oscar De La Hoya has very good matchmakers. Oscar De La Hoya, even though the only time I really hear Oscar De La Hoya getting fight calls wrong is when he's talking about his fighter fighting Floyd Mayweather Jr. And he's just out there just saying anything because he don't like Floyd Mayweather Jr. That's that POWDER talking out of Oscar De La Hoya. But other than that, man, Oscar De La Hoya really knows his fighting, his boxing. So I figured that's what they were doing with Gennady Golovkin. That's why I picked Canelo Alvarez to beat Gennady Golovkin. It didn't happen the first time. It wound up being a draw, but it definitely happened the second time. And now you see a couple fights later for that with Gennady Golovkin where he is now. Gennady Golovkin is even more deteriorated now where he's having a hard time. And I think, truthfully, I thought he probably lost that fight on my scorecard to Sergey Deverenchenko. And Canelo fought him after he had difficulties with Daniel Jacobs. So now you move forward to this fight with Sergey Kovalev. Dude, Sergey Kovalev has already been knocked out 2 times. He's lost 3. He's been knocked out twice. The book is already, that was my dog. Sorry, I had to look over there. The book is already out. The book is already out on Sergey Kovalev. And like clockwork, here comes Canelo Alvarez fighting him, right? For some talk of something that nobody but Henry Armstrong has done since 1938. It's nonsense. The two things being compared are nonsense, but the fact that Canelo Alvarez would try to get that type of credit off of somebody if he ain't the weakest link, if he's not the weakest link at 175 pounds, he's damn sure the oldest link. He's the furthest off his prime link. I don't think Canelo Alvarez can be considered an all-time great. And then here's the other thing. Besides the fighting where he fights people at certain points in their careers, it's also just the blatant prima donna-ishness of the way he goes into these fights. When I found out yesterday that Canelo Alvarez and Sergey Kovalev's fight has a rehydration clause in it, I was just done. Okay? I was team Canelo all the way. Even after he tested positive for performance-enhancing drugs at Combuterol. Because I was like, maybe he was in the meat. Or let me get that right. I'm sorry. Even with the catch weights that he was having people fight at, draining fighters down. Even when he had his own weight class at fighting above the above the 154 pound limit or below the 160 pound limit, he's a middleweight guy, making people drop down in weight, whatever. I was still with him. When I believe he lost to Erislandy Lara and he got the decision, I was like, all right, let's just chalk it up to politics. They're trying to build Canelo. Canelo got the call. Even though I thought he lost to Lara, I could still rock with him. It got real difficult with the Combuterol. But now with this rehydration clause, I got to be done. Sergey Kovalev is fighting at 175 pounds for his belt. Kovalev, as much as I don't like Kovalev is the WBO champion. Why in the world should he have to do something outside of the rules of his organization to defend his belt? Why should Canelo Alvarez get an advantage over Sergey Kovalev that nobody else gets when they fought for a title? Why would you essentially have an after the fact catch weight? He can only gain 8-10 pounds between the day of the weigh-in and the next morning. Come on, man. You know that's gamesmanship. That's not a true 175-pound fight. You making the dude sick. He's already coming down in weight. Would usually walk in the ring somewhere around 190, 195 pounds. That's standard for these 75 pounders. Is that what if Canelo Alvarez wins this fight, is that what he's going to do? Is that what he's going to do to Beterbiev? Now all of a sudden he's the freaking IBF. Now everybody else got it. No, I think the most you can come in the weigh-in is 175. And matter of fact, we're going to move this weight down to 172 pounds. Beterbiev, if you want this fight, you got to come in at 172 and you got to fight with your hand behind your back. That's not shit that all-time great fighters do. All-time great fighters play by the rules. They beat people who are their peers. Canelo Alvarez out here ducking, not fighting Jamal Charlo, not fighting Demetrius Andrade, going up to fight old man and then tying the hands behind the back of the old man he's fighting. It's ridiculous. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.